most effective things that you can do to treat depression. In the case of OCD, that's even more of a challenge. There's fewer medications for treating folks with OCD, and about half of patients don't see significant improvement from those medications. But with TMS, we see that about 1 in 3 patients achieve a response, and about 1 in 2 achieve a partial response. And in fact, those benefits that they get from the treatment are quite durable.
Can you explain what Deep TMS is and how it stands apart from other treatment options out there?
Sure. So Deep TMS stands for Deep Transcranial Magnetic Stimulation, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's a non-invasive outpatient procedure, right? So it uses an electromagnetic coil that's embedded in a helmet, and that helmet is placed on a patient's head, and it generates electromagnetic pulses that target specific areas of their brain that are involved in different mental health and addiction conditions. The goal is really to stimulate neurons and reactivate some of those areas of the brain that are either under or overactive in these different conditions. So right now we are FDA-cleared to treat depression, OCD, and smoking addiction. There's been a lot of research in TMS on different, other types of psychiatric and neurological conditions as well. So there's a lot of broad application for this. It's a procedure that you would generally go to your psychiatrist's office to get. You're coming pretty much every day for a short while and receiving the 3 to 20 minute stimulation sessions. Not too much in the way of side effects, right? So it's very different from taking medication, which is one of the primary ways that people are treated for conditions like depression and OCD, where even though those can be effective for a number of people, many patients will suffer from side effects that are systemic that just don't exist with TMS because it's not coursing through your bloodstream, right? So that's certainly one of the advantages that it has against medication, but it's not really considered a replacement. A lot of these conditions tend to be treated most effectively through a multimodal approach. So most of the clinics that offer TMS do so in conjunction with psychotherapy, medication management, and potentially even ketamine or other modalities.
Now, right now, TMS is offered, and insurance will cover it. Will cover treatment-resistant depression, for example. So, do you see? I mean, right. I'm curious why it's like there's either 2 medications need to be tried, or 3 medications, or 4 medications need to be attempted before TMS is offered or covered by insurance. Do you see that? Do you see that changing?
Well, I mean, it has changed quite a bit. When I first joined the company, pretty much every insurance company out there was 3 or 4 medication failures, plus failure of psychotherapy, and many of those insurance companies have started to reduce the requirements to 2 or even 1. Right? So Medicare, for example, is only 1 medication failure. So I think they've seen the light, so to speak, right? And they understand the data that. Even though this is very effective for people who have been not helped by a large number of medications, it's also very effective as a first-line treatment potentially. Right now, of course, patients are generally going to try medication first because it's a pill you can take at home. So TMS is almost certainly never going to be the first thing that people go towards, but insurance companies are understanding that it's a much more mainstream option than was thought previously.
Right. How does Deep TMS work in treating addiction and mental health disorders, and what makes it so effective?
Well, it's using that electromagnetic coil, right, to target areas of the brain that are not functioning the way we would expect in these different conditions. So in the case of depression, right, we're targeting the prefrontal cortex, specifically the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which is involved in mood regulation. For OCD, we're mostly targeting the anterior cingulate cortex, which is involved in impulse inhibition. And then for smoking addiction, we're targeting the bilateral insula, which is involved in craving behaviors. So essentially, there's a lot of neurobiological research that goes on to figure out which networks and areas in the brain are implicated in these different conditions. And then our engineers over in Israel design a coil that can specifically target that electromagnetic pulses into that area.
To get a free copy of the 12-step guide that I created for you, click on the link in the description below. Which specific conditions can Deep TMS address, and what does the research say about the success rates of each condition?
Sure. So for, the bread and butter of TMS right now is treating depression, right? Treatment-resistant depression. That's been cleared for a number of years. The data, there's numerous randomized controlled studies on this, but the most compelling data is really our post-marketing data, where we collect information from the hundreds of clinics out there that are offering this in real life, right? And it's about 4 out of 5 patients will experience a response, and about 2 and 3 will achieve remission, right? So response meaning about a 50% reduction in their depression symptoms, whereas remission is the absence of clinical depression symptoms. So keep in mind, these are patients who have tried medication, they've tried psychotherapy, generally haven't achieved the response level that they want. So we're treating the most challenging cases and still seeing 4 out of 5 people achieving response. So this is undoubtedly one of the most effective things that you can do to treat depression. In the case of OCD, that's even more of a challenge. There's fewer medications for treating folks with OCD, and about half of patients don't see significant improvement from those medications. But with TMS, we see that about 1 in 3 patients achieve a response, and about 1 in 2 achieve a partial response. And in fact, those benefits that they get from the treatment are quite durable, right? Lasting well beyond a year in most cases. Right. Then, our other indication. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's been our experience as well, as we've seen phenomenal results. So,
yeah, it's it's one thing to look at the numbers, right, on papers and clinical studies, but we talk to a lot of patients and psychiatrists and practice managers, and you get more of a personal sense of how this has impacted folks. So when we try to gather testimonials to help patients understand what this is, you really get like the emotional sense of how these folks have been through years, sometimes decades, of really not being helped or supported effectively by the medical field, and now they've discovered something or been shown a new treatment that really has impacted their lives quite a bit.
If you got value from this video, if you heard what you needed to hear, be sure to like it. Comment if you've got a question or you have something to say. Subscribe to the channel. Camelback Recovery provides treatment services for people struggling with mental health, mental illness, addiction, alcoholism, whatever it may be. So if you or a loved one is struggling and you need some guidance and you need some direction, reach out to us. Our contact information is down below, or you can go to our website, camelbackrecovery.com, whether it be detox, inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, sober living, recovery coaching, sober companion services, whatever it may be. Like I said, we can either help you or make sure that you get sent in the right direction. We help people all over the country, all over the world for that matter. I'll see you on the next video.